Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast and probably the final Dr. Joe Dispenza episode that I'm going to do for a little while, but it's definitely not going to be the last that you hear me talk about him because I am such a fangirl and I just had so much to say following the retreat that I went to in Switzerland. It was the end of February, early March, and it was a 3-day progressive retreat. And this is the third episode in a mini series that I've done. The first episode was really an overview of that weekend. So if you are interested in learning a little bit more about what that looked like and how I felt about it, because it was definitely a roller coaster of emotions. There were moments that I thought, this is amazing. I can't wait to do the week-long one. And then there were moments where I was like, get me the hell out of here ASAP because it was just a lot of energy, at least for me. And then the second episode that I did, I definitely recommend going back and looking at that, watching that or listening on Spotify or Apple if you're more of an audio person, because that was all about the teachings on healing your body with your mind. So, using the power of your subconscious mind and meditation, which we're going to go into the how to's today, more about his approach to meditations. We're talking about the quantum field, the 5D, heart brain coherence, the observer effect, all that fun stuff. If you have no idea what half of those things are, that's absolutely fine. Hopefully, after today's episode, you should have more of an understanding. And when I first started hearing about it, it just felt like it was a different language. I had no idea what was going on. And then just because I was immersed in it and have been immersed through books and podcasts and his lectures now, it's starting to sink in, but it's definitely not one of those areas that I have mastered. I don't think we know half of what's going on in this world. And he even says the likelihood that we're experiencing reality as it is 0%, less than 1%. So there's so much potential out there, and the quantum field is just something I don't think feel like we'll ever understand, but starting to learn about it has completely opened my eyes up and changed the way that I experience the world and the way that I show up because it's really powerful stuff. So if you haven't gone to listen to the last episode in particular, it talked about healing your body from physical health issues, which I know a lot of people listen to this podcast for. That's how I got into this world. But you can also use it to manifest your dream life and attracting a partner and reach financial abundance if that's more of what you're looking for. So just apply the lessons to whatever you're needing support with. This episode is all about meditation specifically. And meditation, in his definition, is to become familiar with or to know thyself. And I know a lot of people have heard or maybe tried meditation before, but he has a bit of a different approach to it. And I'm sure he's done his research and has his reasonings for it. And I have noticed a massive difference between Dr. Joe's meditations versus other ones that you can just listen to on meditation apps. Any of them are great. If you're just getting into meditation, start definitely with 5 minutes and you don't need to build up because some of his tracks are closer to an hour and it can be quite intimidating. So please just start with 2 minutes and then build up and then build up. And it is such a practice. It's like going to the gym. We need to train our body, train our minds to be able to sit there for long periods of time. There's no such thing as someone who's a bad meditator. It is completely normal and natural to have thoughts come up, to feel distracted, to want to get up, to be checking the time. That is part of the process, and it's just about persevering. There might be other things that you're more drawn to, but I really believe now that everyone can benefit from meditation, and it should be something that's incorporated into everyone's routines if you want to live your best life. And it can look a little bit different. You might be more drawn to certain meditations. More, you might enjoy more guided meditations more than just being sat in silence. You don't have to be sat in the lotus position, in a cross-legged position either. You can make it your own, but meditation is something that I have tried on and off for a few years now, and it wasn't one of those tools that I was obsessed with initially, and I did find it more challenging. And for that reason, I just put my energy more into other things like EFT tapping and somatic movements and journaling and hypnosis. I preferred those in my day-to-day. But then after learning the science of meditation, it's motivated me even more to make this a daily practice. And at least for the past month, I've been meditating twice a day, which is something that I never thought I would hear myself say. And actually, at the retreat, I made a little commitment. I did say 30 days of Joe Dispenza retreat meditations. I stuck to 2 weeks, and that was me purposely cutting it short just because I'm also in another coaching program at the moment. I'm creating my own meditations for my practitioner mentoring program and just had so many meditations to do. And I found that adding Joe Dispenza ones on top of that for the entire month was just pretty full on. So I will be using them in future. I have my favorite ones. I mentioned those in the first of this series or 2 episodes ago, if you want to hear some of my favorite Joe Dispenza meditations. But I have at least been doing some kind of meditation twice a day, and it has been so transformative, and I definitely want to stick with it probably long term because it's not something that should be this little thing that you do for 2 weeks and then expect the changes to stick. Because of the nature of our brain and the world that we live in, it has to be a lifestyle. It has to be something that you do as easy and as effortless as brushing your teeth every day. It's just who you are. And it might change day to day. One day it's 5 minutes, and then on another day that you have a bit more time, flexibility in the morning, you can do a 30-minute meditation. But try to do something every single day. And the key times are first thing in the morning and before bed, because naturally your brain is going to be more receptive. It's going to be in that slower brainwave state, which is the ideal, because then as the day goes on, when you have lots of things to do, when you're having your lunch and working, your brain is in high beta mode. And it's just a lot more difficult to calm it down and slow it down when you've already started your day. So it's not impossible. And if mid-afternoon is the key time that you can do it, please do. But ideally, if you can start your day or end your day with meditation or both, if you really want to go for it, that would be very helpful. So over the years, I have used a ton of different apps, the Calm app, Headspace app, which I still recommend. There's tons of meditations on YouTube. You can just type in very specific keywords. So 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes, meditation for anxiety, meditation for abundance, meditation for inner child healing, meditation for healing from a breakup. You can really search anything and you're going to find something suitable. And you can then find the types of creators and teachers who you resonate most with, or you can go old school and just sit in silence. I do prefer to have some sort of music on in the background or some guidance rather than just being left completely on my own. And if you are setting a timer because you can only sit there for 15 minutes, just make sure the timer is a very calm, gentle chime noise or something, not a really stressful alarm, because you don't want to end your meditation with high cortisol levels. And Dr. Joe really drilled it into my brain that the most ideal position to be in is a seated position, and this is to help with the flow of energy, life force, chi, whatever you want to call it. Whereas if you're lie down, especially in your bed, which I have been prone to doing, you associate then your bed with sleep, and you're more likely to go to sleep, definitely if it's first thing in the morning or before bed. And if you lie down, it's still better than not doing it at all, but if you can, meditate in a different room, have a special place that you go and meditate. I am actually going to move a chair that I was going to get rid of, but it's going to come in very useful to be my meditation chair, into my spare room. And that's the room that's got another sofa in. It's got my infrared sauna in there. So I'm going to make it a little wellnessy area. And then I'm not meditating in bed as much. But in the morning, I do my red light mask and I do red light on my scalp as well. And I have been lying down, but I don't fall asleep. So I think that's a win. So Dr. Joe's meditations are all designed pretty much to connect with the quantum field, which is this infinite space of energy and potential. We are experiencing now with our senses the 3D, the third dimension, the physical matter, the things, the objects, the people. But when we turn off our senses, so when we close down our eyes or wear an eye mask, when we put in some headphones and listen and block out the external world, when we sit still and we're not moving about, we are no longer experiencing the third dimension because that is only to be experienced with our senses. And when we turn those off, we get to tap into the fifth dimension, the quantum field. And this quantum field is known as the 5D, and it's based, instead of people, places, things, objects, it's based on light, frequency, and energy. Just like we can't see Wi-Fi frequencies, radio signals, we know that they're still there. Bluetooth, we can tap into it at any point, we can turn it on, turn it off. We can turn the dial on the radio and tune in to Radio 1 or country music in an instant, and it's always there, but it's invisible to the naked eye because the frequency is vibrating faster than the speed of light, so we cannot see it, but it's still very much there. If you've ever heard one of Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations, you might notice his voice is a little bit strange, and he pokes fun at himself a little bit at the retreat. It kind of sounds like a godlike voice, and he does that on purpose. It's to differentiate between his lecturing voice and the meditations, just so you're not going into a meditative state when you're listening to his podcast episodes and things. But he says things like become no body, no thing, nowhere, in no time. And that is you just being pure energy. And you don't want to overthink it. A lot of people ask me, what does it mean when he says focus on your throat in space? It might sound weird, but you just don't want to overthink it because you're trying to actually turn your brain off a little bit. So what I do is I just imagine and feel like I'm floating in space. And if he says to bring awareness to a body part, I will do, but I am just more feeling rather than thinking, if that makes sense. And the key with meditation is to control your thoughts, or not to hold on to your thoughts, just to let them pass by, like you would if you were in nature. This is a nice analogy that I heard. If you were in nature and you were looking at the scenery and it was this gorgeous view, but then a few cars went by, you wouldn't hyper focus on the cars, you would still just be focused on the view ahead of you. Or imagine if you're laying on the ground and just watching clouds float by. That's what we want to try and do with our thoughts, and then we can take this into our day-to-day as well. We are ultimately the thinker of our thoughts. We are the awareness above our thoughts. We're not the thoughts ourselves. So if we can start to separate the thoughts and the mental chatter with not actually being us, that's not our true self, and we can quieten that chatter down. And we don't want to try and not think, we don't want to try and suppress them. If thoughts come up, which they will, because the brain's like, what's going on? This is uncomfortable, things are changing. We just want to let them pass by and not fight them, not interact with them. Just let them pass by, and then over time, that will start to quieten down. We really need to be more okay with the unknown. This is what I've had to work on too. Part of the reason that I liked having that guidance or doing visualizations instead of just being there, because I feel like my body felt uncomfortable. It just didn't feel right. I was just thinking of the next thing to do and trying to make it a more active meditation. And it's probably because the human brain fears the unknown. It likes to be in the familiar past or the predictable future. And the predictable future is based on the familiar past. We all see the world and reality through our unique individual lenses and experience. And a common fear in humans, because of evolution, is the unknown. It goes against evolutionary nature. But there is actually now so much excitement and potential in the unknown. So if we can try and keep our mind present on the moment, that is where we can tap into the quantum field, and we're pulling our brain back from the past, back from the future into the now, and that actually builds up our energetic field too. When we're constantly giving our attention to other things, people, our work, our pets, social media, our job, we're giving out, and that is depleting our energetic field. And as often as possible, if we can go inward, that starts to strengthen up that energetic field as well. And that acts like a magnet to our desires. A lot of people have very low energetic fields these days. And I think in his advanced week-long retreats, they test this energetic field. This isn't just this woo-woo made up thing. You can actually test the strength of someone's energetic field. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while now, you've probably heard me talking about the importance of minerals. I know that you're trying to balance your hormones, detox your liver, heal your gut, but minerals are actually key for these things to happen. They really are the spark plugs of the body. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that unless you're working on mineral balancing, you're probably not going to see results when it comes to things like energy, skin, digestion, and period problems. So many of us are mineral deficient or imbalanced these days due to soil depletion, chronic stress, poor gut health, medication usage, and big mistakes that I see clients making is supplementing in the wrong way and following intense healing practices. Trying to DIY your health with self-supplementation, restricted diets, and crazy detoxes can actually throw your mineral levels out of whack. It's important to know which specific minerals you have to determine the treatment that you need, and that's exactly why I created my mineral balancing course, I'm Balanced, so that you can get your hands on my favourite functional lab test, the Hair Tissue Mineral Analysis. Yes, this can be done from anywhere in the world. Here's what you get in this programme. 1 complimentary HTMA test, over 8 hours of video education, helping you to understand your unique lab results and exactly what you need to do to balance things naturally. Plus the tools to support you and your family long-term with a deeper understanding of minerals. All this is just £447, including the lab test. Then long-term, you can just purchase additional tests for yourself and your loved ones, because this is a test that I recommend everyone does 1 to 2 times a year to make sure you're staying as balanced as possible. You could get started today with your hair sample and have answers within a few weeks once the results come back. Get instant access to the course material by clicking the link in the episode show notes. Another thing that was really interesting, and I saw it firsthand at the event because a few seats in front of me were on the phone constantly. And I know they weren't making notes, they were on TikTok, they were on Instagram. And I said in the last episode, I was getting frustrated, and then I was trying to be present, and they were distracting me a little bit, or I was getting distracted by them. And they ended up leaving halfway through, which was just ridiculous because people would love to have been at that event. And it was completely sold out, and people like that waste tickets, which is very annoying. But Dr. Joe talks about having a convergent focus versus a divergent focus. And when he mentioned being on your phone and social media, they kind of glance up a little bit and then they just go back to scrolling and scrolling. So the analogy that he gave, which is relevant, is being on your phone. So when you have a convergent focus, you're very materialistic. You're very focused on the 3D, the physical world, things and objects. And when we open up our awareness, we have more of a divergent focus, and we can start to understand and experience the energetic frequencies, and we start to be more open in a lot of different ways. And this helps to, as I said, strengthen up the energetic field too. So at the end of the day, everything is made up of atoms. We're made up of atoms. If you were to go to the microscopic level of your table or your chair or your pen, it is 99.9999, I think 506 digits. And they say empty space. And they used to think it was just nothingness, but it's actually everything. That empty space is energy. And this is why we're talking about it in terms of our healing journey. is because it all comes down to energy at the end of the day. The food that you eat is energy. And there is a big difference between the type of energy that you're getting from M&Ms versus some grass-fed meat or some vegetables that have been grown in organic soil and nurtured and freshly picked. So if you've heard me talking about your vibration, your frequency, healing limiting beliefs. This is all why this all affects your frequency, can lower your frequency and your vibration. And it ties into manifestation, the law of attraction. Your vibration attracts similar frequencies, like attracts like. The other thing that I want to talk about today is the observer effect, which I feel like I've got my head around a little bit, but it's just still one of those subjects where my brain hurts after watching videos and learning about it. It's really fascinating. I would recommend looking into it more online. There is a YouTube video of something called the double split or the double slit experiment, which shows that basically atoms or particles can change their behavior and the way that they function or express themselves when they are observed by someone. They can go from behaving more like a particle versus a wave. And I heard a TikTok creator explaining this a little bit more, the difference between particle and wave. So imagine a particle being like ice, like an ice cube. So it's physical, it's 3D, it's able to be seen, and the particles are more dense. So they're densely packed and vibrating at a slower frequency. Whereas the wave, imagine that as being like vapor or steam. So when you heat up that ice cube and you keep heating it, it turns into water and then it starts to boil and then eventually it turns into steam or vapor. That's because it's vibrating much faster. And then there comes a point where it's vibrating faster than the speed of light and we can no longer see it, but it still exists. It's still there. So this observer effect shows that when you focus on something, so let's say you're deep in meditation and you're focusing on your healed, happy, abundant, thriving self, when you're focusing on that, it can actually cause that reality to go from a wave, an invisible thing, to a particle, a visible thing. Crazy stuff. Please look at that more. And if I can explain it any better at some point, I will do. The key thing in meditation is that we are calming our brainwave states. The standard brainwave state that we're in the majority of the time is beta. And this is our thinking brain, our logical, analytical brain. You're probably in it right now if you're listening to this podcast. And then there's alpha, and if you slow it even more, theta. If you get really good at meditation, there is another stage which is actually the most active, but it's gamma frequencies, which Dr. Joe describes as being like a braingasm. And they can't even put into words what it's like, but this is when people say they have these like huge moments of ecstasy and bliss, and it feels like they are just on another planet. You can have these crazy trips just from meditation. So they're typically in the gamma frequencies, and the brain can be 200 times more active than a standard brain in those states. The state that we want to be in to really change our lives and to tap into all of this potential is the theta brain wave state. This is basically hypnosis. It's what we are in the majority of the time under the age of 7. So from 0 to 7, we are primarily in a theta brainwave state, a constant state of hypnosis. We're like a sponge. We're picking up how to be, how to behave, what to think, and what to say, how to speak, how to walk. We are a sponge. And we can still access that. We actually access hypnosis states when watching TV, sometimes when we're just zoned out, when we're daydreaming, but also as we're drifting in and out of sleep. But we can tap into that even more frequently during meditation when we slow our brainwaves down, when we remain in that present moment for longer periods of time. And this is the brainwave state that we can actually program in new beliefs. We can clear old beliefs and trauma. We can visualize our future self. And the brain doesn't know the difference between something that's real and something that's vividly imagined in this state. And also, if you pair that with an elevated emotion of gratitude or love or excitement or happiness, that is that visualization plus the elevated emotion is extremely effective for manifestation and attracting in all of your desires. So if you see yourself healed, if you feel the feelings of abundant health before you see it in your 3D reality, so you could be deep in that visual in meditation, and then if you open your eyes, you're obviously not going to see that right away, but everything that you are seeing currently is a projection of your old thoughts, your old way of being, your old perceptions and beliefs. So you need to persist despite what you see. I think there's a quote, something like faith is persevering despite not seeing the evidence just yet. So it's on a bit of a catch up. Our mind and our thoughts send the signal out. So visualization is one of my favorite tools, always has been, always will be. And then that feeling, and that comes a lot from the heart, draws it back in like a magnet. So we're tuning our brain like an antenna, like a radio receiver. We're sending that out. We're connecting to that potential in the quantum field because there are infinite potentials out there. We're turning that from wave to particle. We're bringing that back into our reality, and then eventually we're going to see it. When our brains are more relaxed, they function a lot better. Our brain and our heart sync up. This is called heart-brain coherence, a really powerful state. And our parasympathetic nervous system turns on. This is when healing can occur. So if we're talking about health and hormones and healing your gut, all of these amazing things, we need our body to be in the rest and digest parasympathetic mode, and slowing our brain waves, slowing down in general, is going to help to get you there. Rhythm and order then take place in the body. The body just knows what to do. The body is a self-healing mechanism, and it should just be able to heal itself like it can a cut on the hand, a blister on your foot. It just heals itself when we don't get in the way, when we believe that healing is possible. And naturally, old thoughts, old patterns, incoherence, and even traumas can start to leave the body. Dr. Joe and his team have worked with veterans and people in prison. They've helped with reform, and he shares how you don't even have to talk about the past or relive past memories and really go into your childhood and relive everything again. When the body has processed the trauma, and it can just do that when it's working in order, it releases anything that's not serving it anymore. The emotion can be processed, the emotion can be healed, and the memory can become wisdom. So when you have a memory without the emotion, this is called wisdom. And he's had these people who have been through the worst circumstances you can ever, like, I can't even comprehend. And they wouldn't change anything for the world because it's made them who they are today. This is why it supports your health so much. In summary, just to recap what we've discussed, when your brain and heart sync up and are firing together properly, healing and homeostasis can occur in the body. The body knows how to heal, and he has witnessed, and a lot of his readers and a lot of his followers over the years have had spontaneous remission, spontaneous healing happen from a range of different things: cancers, Alzheimer's, even bowel disease, so many different things. Number two, when your brainwaves slow down and reach the theta state specifically, you can reprogram your brain. It can clear out any old patterns that aren't serving you, anxieties, fears, traumas, and it can also program in new empowering beliefs and the future desires that you have for your life, your manifestations. We and everything in this universe is made up of more energy than matter, than physical. So when we can tap into that world through meditation, we can access the quantum field and connect with all of these infinite possibilities that are out there. Okay, there's so much more that I want to say. Please check out the previous two episodes. Probably not the last time I'm going to mention Dr. Joe on here, but I really hope you enjoyed this episode. I really hope you can start to incorporate meditation into your routine. Even if it's for 2 minutes to begin, it doesn't matter. Don't think that you're a bad meditator. Know that your brain is going to want to sabotage you and it'll tell you that you have so much to do today, just skip it, or this is uncomfortable, or it's not for me. But this is just your brain trying to keep you safe, trying to keep you in your comfort zone, trying to keep you in the familiar. If you want to change, you're going to need to do something different. Your personality, the beliefs that you have, the thoughts, the actions that you take every single day determine your personal reality. So, in order to have something different in your life, you need to do and be something different. And meditation could be just that for you. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next week for the next episode.